Hey everybody, my name's Norm and I'm a hot rodder. Today I'm going to be attempting to fabricate some mounting brackets for the heater core in this truck. And the truck itself, the truck is a 71 GMC stepside 1500 that's got a narrowed rear and it's been tubbed. It's a retired quarter-mile dragster. So I got this thing in the mid-90s as a parts chaser and put a motor in it, and now I'm refreshing the motor, and in the process I'm fixing everything else, and that includes the heater core. Well, originally it started with just replacing belts and hoses. So these were the heater hoses on the truck when I got it 30 years ago, and I just left them on. The heat worked at that point in time. But yeah, basically I took some braided steel hose and put some hose clamps and little hose end covers on it, hose clamp covers, and that was it. Yeah, not a real good deal. So when I was going to pull them off, guess what came off with it? Yeah, the spout off of the end of the heater core. So it's like, oh, great. And this is the heater core. You can see where the tube broke off. So obviously I had to get a new heater core. I also had to get a new fan because this doesn't work. So here's the original air box. Before I got the truck, somebody replaced the heater core, and that was back when it still had the original sheet metal nose on the truck. I've since replaced the nose with a fiberglass tilt nose that's been converted to a lift-off nose. And I've taken out the fender well. So when I had to take this out, it was easy. But what they did is they took out the bolts they could get at without taking off the hood and the fender, and then they bent the thing back, and yeah, see, now it broke. But yeah, they bent it back and got the old core out and put that core that broke with the broken tube in it, and they kind of trashed the box in the process. So yeah, had to get a new box. So here's the new box. It's a metal box from Goodmark Industries, and a new fan, and the new heater core, OEM style. I think that was a Summit piece. But now comes the problem. The brackets for mounting this thing. There's like holes here and down here, down at the bottom, for some brackets that go around the ends of these tanks and then go mount here with sheet metal screws. Supposed to be. When they tore apart the old one, they didn't put the brackets back in. They just left it flopping around in there. So I've been looking for brackets and haven't been able to find any. So these here are like the only kind of heater core brackets that you can find online for this truck. And apparently these are for a heater truck that has air conditioning, and mine does not have air conditioning, and apparently they use two different heater cores. So apparently this is the heater core for the truck without air conditioning, and it's the type that I have. And this here is the heater core for the type with air conditioning, which is the type that those brackets I just showed you work with. Because if you try to put the brackets on this one, these pipes are in the way. Whereas with this one, the pipes are on the sides of the tank instead of on the ends of the tank like this one, where it's on the ends. And so it's not a problem getting the bracket around the tank and then up against the heater core box so that you can screw it down. I've looked far and wide, and I can't find the brackets for this heater core anywhere, except maybe a junkyard. So if we take a look at this heater core versus this bracket, you can see the general idea of how it's supposed to work. But yeah, tube's in the way and it won't go back there. It's too wide. So yeah, but apparently this is similar to what the OE part looks like. So here's the air box, and these are the mounting holes here and back here for the brackets. They go in like that. And if you look at how the brackets line up versus this, it looks like the OE bracket was kind of like this, but this guy, instead of going in, turning inward, it goes outward like this one does. So odds are, if I can fab up something that looks kind of like this, fits around the pipe, and has these little feet sticking outwards in both directions, then it ought to fit and match up with these holes. Well, I drill it to match, but that's the basic idea. So I jumped on Amazon and ordered up a bit of sheet metal. Let's see what we got here. This should be, I believe it's 16th inch aluminum. Don't want to scratch it. Well, I guess it doesn't matter. It's just a bracket. It doesn't matter if I scratch it up. So I just use some leftover for guitars, though. So building guitars is another one of my hobbies. Ah, come on, stupid thing. There we go. Yeah. Aluminum sheet metal, relatively stiff. Should be able to bend it in a vise with a hammer, kind of a thing. And yeah, got aviation shears to cut it out with. It's going to be a little thick and tough to cut, but I can always resort to a angle grinder and a metal cutting wheel if I have to. And yeah, so I'm going to try to fab up something like this, and then maybe make it a little wider and put some kind of a hole or make it go around the pipe somehow. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it too much yet, but I got all the materials, and I'm waiting for other parts, and so this is on the to-do list. So, and it's about the only parts I have everything for to at least attempt trying. So I'm going to give this a shot. Okay, I think I got it figured out. That's the basic bracket I'm going to build, which is kind of similar to this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it I'm working in metric because I don't like doing fraction math. So I'm going to make it about 40 mil wide, which is a little over an inch. And then the plan is, get the core here. Okay, so you see the box, and the core goes in like this, and the brackets mount on this side of the core. So the plan is the bracket's going to be a piece of metal that's about this wide, and it's going to come around and down across the bottom and hook and like that. And then it's going to come all the way up here and do the same thing on the other side. And then all I have to do is where the pipe is in the way, I just cut out that part of the bracket. So the bracket will be this wide down here to about here. And then I'll do the bend, cut this portion out, and the bracket will only be about as wide as my finger across here and a little bit sticking over on this end like that. So yeah, the bracket would be about where my thumb is, and then it'd be, as wide as these fingers on this side. And I think that's going to be my solution. And yeah, it'll cover up a couple of fins a little bit at the edge, but I don't think it's going to be a big issue. That's a hot rod motor. It kicks out a ton of heat no matter what. So I actually run twin radiators and 4 cooling fans on that engine. Give you an idea how much of heat it kicks. It's over 500 horsepower. So yeah, that's the plan. And then I was taking a look at this material, and this is apparently 1/8 inch thick aluminum. And I think this is going to be a little thicker than I need, and is therefore going to be kind of a pain to work with to cut and bend and such. So I think I'm going to delay the project for 48 hours here and order up some 16th inch thick aluminum and have a go at it when that stuff comes in. Okay, new sheet metal for the brackets is here, and it's looking like it's going to be the kind of thickness I'm looking for. Something that's a bit easier to cut and a bit easier to bend. Take a look at it here. Yeah, seems to be just about right. Go find my diagram. All right, well, this is what I came up with. This is almost to scale, and the dash lines show where the bends will be. That's where the bracket holes for the screws go. And this is where it's cut off so that it'll clear the pipe. And then that's the part that goes beside the pipe and wraps around on the fins part. Actually, I think those holes need to be over on this side. Figure that part out later. So once you bend it up, it'll look like something like this. Basically a bracket. And then part of it will be cut away for clearance for the tube. And then a pair of holes for the screws for mounting it. That's the basic idea, so I'm going to grab the aviation shears and get this, marking this out and cutting it. Well, this thing's 305, so I think I'll just use the full length and make the brackets, 5 millimeters longer on each end. I can always cut it off if they're too long. Okay, got this thing, I just bent it so that it was flat again, and then I went ahead and marked it out. These are where the bends are going to go in order to form the kind of C-shaped bracket, and then these are where the holes are going to go. And the next thing I need to do is I need to check and see what kind of screws I'm dealing with. The plan is to use the screws which came with those other types of brackets, since there should be, original type screws. And I got to see what they are in order to figure out like what size to drill these holes. Okay, looks to be small hex head drive sheet metal screws, and they're supposed to go in from the outside, I assume, because there's no room to reach them from the inside. So they're going to thread through the box wall and then into this plate. So I need something like the size of the shank of these screws. Okay, looks like these should be 3 millimeter holes. And I don't have a metal punch. I'm not going to ruin my wood punch, so I'm just going to use a nail in order to get a starting mark on these. Ouch. Don't hit your thumb. Okay, I double checked the orientation of everything and marked the air box as to which way the heater core goes in its small tube and large tube. And over here I marked out what's the small and the large tubes on this thing. And in order to make sure that I got the bracket placed on this the right way. So here's where it's going to need to be notched to clear this pipe so that it can slide over all the way to the end of the tank. So that these holes here will line up with the holes in the heater core box. So basically all I need to do is go kind of like that and like that kind of a thing, and it's going to come back about halfway. So that's the notch it's going to need there. So we'll go ahead and cut that out and slide this thing over. And then that'll be one bracket done, and then just repeat for the other side. Yeah, and this aluminum was a good choice. It's stiff enough, but not too stiff. It's got a little bit of spring and memory to it, so it should work just fine. And I've got a nice tight fit on the radiator, so no flopping around. You can always, put a bit of foam or rubber in there if it was a little loose.